Holy flippity flip flop flap and smokes, everyone. It just happened. We just saw a major black swan event that it sent oil surging right now. We got the latest inflation data. Inflation is surging yet again, and this has central banks around the world absolutely terrified. But during these highly uncertain times, people are doing what I've been trying to warn about. When things really start to hit the fan, when people know the economy is going to go into the toilet, and when things look very, very uncertain around the world, they will flock to gold and silver as a safe haven. So we're going to go over exactly what happened with the latest inflation report, what that means for the Federal Reserve, for the central banks, for interest rates, for the markets, but more importantly, there is a huge black swan event, which we all know is happening in the Middle East right now, which could get even worse, that has sent oil surging over 6%. And again, we'll go over a bit later in the video how we can protect ourselves, because during every crisis, there is always opportunity and you need to know what to do to protect yourself. So without further ado, you know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get straight into the news, the facts, and the data. So look at this. So quickly cover this, but then we'll go into that breaking news with what's going on with the oil markets and gold and silver. So consumer prices rose 0.4% in September, more than expected. So it was up 3.7% from a year ago, compared to the estimate of 0.3%. Core also increased 0.3% on the month and 4.1% on a 12-month basis. So shelter costs were the main factor in inflation, increasing, accounting for more than half the rise in the CPI. And real average hourly earnings fell 0.2% on the month, but were up 0.5% from a year ago. So what this simply means is when you annualize that 0.4%, that means inflation is still rising at about 4.8%, nearly 2.5 times the Federal Reserve's mandate. That's still far too high for the Federal Reserve. Also, what we're saying is shelter costs are making up the most of the CPI, but I'm actually going to break it down for you. There's other categories that are absolutely skyrocketing as well. And of course, the Federal Reserve will say, well, look, if you take out shelter, because shelter's not important, people don't need a house, right? You can just go ahead and buy a tent. We'll just take that out of the CPI and then inflation's fine. Well, let's keep reading, everyone. So we can bring up this chart here of everything that's going up this year. So we can see here, food away from home up 6%, food from vending machines plus mobile vendors, definitely don't buy that right now when we're heading into recession, is up 16%. We can see here, frozen non-carbonated drinks, juices, that's up 21%. Frozen vegetables up 11%. Uncooked beef, steaks, 9.7%. Baby food, 9%. So we can see this, all these these essential items people need are going up way higher than inflation. So you can pause it here if you want to have a look at every breakdown there. Also see energy. Well, that's about to shift massively because this is annualized numbers. It's saying it's only up 3%. We'll get into that in a moment. Now, less food plus energy. So look at this. Motor vehicle insurance is up 19%. That's going to be also another big increase on people's budgets. Admission to sporting events, so you're going to want to go watch the football, up 19% almost. Motor vehicle repair, I've noticed that when I've had to go and repair my car, repairs are up a lot, 14.9%. Legal services, wow, that's skyrocketing. I wonder why legal services are skyrocketing so much. Non-prescription drugs up 8.4%. Men's pants shorts up 8%. Pet food up 7.6%. Personal care products up 7.2%. Outpatient hospital services up 6.1%. And lease cars, trucks 4.6%. So again, when we break it down, we can see there are some categories that are going up way, way higher than the CPI numbers. So again, it's going to be very, very bad news for the Federal Reserve. Now, let's go into this breaking news here. So look at this. Oil jumps nearly 6% amid geopolitical tensions and post best day since April. So, everyone, this is absolutely huge. This is going to be a huge pain for the central banks because they've been lifting interest rates aggressively. And they're at a point now where if they have to lift interest rates another just 1%, we're going to see everything in the market begin to implode. And I don't say that lightly because we've already seen so many bank failures because when interest rates go up, bond yields, bond prices crash, okay? And if that keeps on happening, well, all the banks that have those bonds on their balance sheets, I did a video the other day saying they already got $600 billion worth of unrealized losses. Those are going to go in the trillions. And thanks for that super chat. He says he owns some gold and silver stocks. Well, they should be doing good very, very soon, especially I'm sure some miners that will be doing good as well. So, also, just very, very quickly, to celebrate this great day for gold and silver, I've got an 85% discount off my course, The Golden Path to Wealth. I barely ever promote this course anymore. I barely ever do discounts like those other YouTubers that say 85% for today only, and they say it every day. I only do it on special occasions like days like today when gold is up 3% and silver is up almost 4%. For the day. So again, 85% discount. You can just check that in the top link in the description. Not just about gold and silver investing, about Bitcoin as well and building wealth. So let's get into this news here. So WTI crude posted its largest day gain since April, and I think we all know why. The Israel-Hamas conflict has raised worries about fighting that could affect regional oil production. And the International Energy Agency on Thursday said that market conditions are fraught with uncertainty, but added that the war has not yet, that's the key word, yet, had a direct impact on physical supply. Well, people, what also happened is there's been more stricter sanctions put on Russia oil, on a couple of tankers that have been known of trying to avoid the Russia oil sanctions. That's another reason why oil prices rose today. But again, what would make this even worse, where we could see oil surging 10, 20% in a day, is if Iran directly gets involved with this conflict, or if they go ahead and attack some of these militant groups like Hamas or Hezbollah, go ahead and attack some oil fields, okay? And like I said, this is going to be big, big trouble for the central banks, because they've had to lift interest rates so aggressively, but inflation, I think, is about to go on another surge. Now, again, look at this. This is why I'll go ahead and adjust the chart here, and I'll move myself so you can see it. This is why you always need insurance. I'll talk about gold and silver as insurance in your portfolio, because when things really hit the fan, you will see gold and silver move quick and move violently. Remember, it was just a week ago, people saying, oh, gold's performing so badly, it's fallen down to nearly $1,800. But what I think is happening right now is you may have some central banks, some of the BRICS nations pouring into gold. You may have some of the central banks in the Middle East pouring into gold. And you're going to have a lot of investors pouring into gold because the S&P was down today, the NASDAQ was down today, and this is what typically happens. Now, also, what could be, I'll go ahead and bring silver up as well. Again, nearly up 4%, $22.80 per ounce. Now, also, what I keep talking about, why gold and silver could be melting up and all commodities could melt up, is because if we go into a much broader conflict, which is happening now, we see the US Navy and also Britain's Navy is headed to the Mediterranean Sea. Special forces have been deployed in Israel as well. I think they're going to try help with recovering some hostages. It just gets into a broader conflict. What the central banks may do, like what they did in World War I and World War II, even if inflation starts to skyrocket out of control, they may say, look, peace and safety is our number one priority. Winning the war is our number one priority. And even though inflation skyrockets, they may not keep lifting interest rates to stop it. And that's something I'm worried about. But we're going to have to wait to see what the Federal Reserve says at their first meeting since this conflict has broken out. I expect what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, look, this is creating a lot of uncertainty now. We're going to wait for more data to come out, wait to see how this unfolds. Or who knows, they could just all of a sudden do an interest rate hike and maybe even announce more interest rate hikes. It is so uncertain right now, but that's why you want to have some gold and silver in your portfolio, because inflation is going to surge. Things are going to get very, very uncertain. I feel like central banks aren't going to do their job. And if they do, well, we're going to see a big market crash, because the banks aren't going to be able to handle another 1 or 2% interest rate increase. So we're pretty much, playing, the Federal Reserve and the central banks are going to be playing chicken with the markets right now. We've got inflation here, the Fed here. Inflation's coming at the central banks. Is the Federal Reserve going to attack a head on, or are they going to pivot at the last minute? So what do you guys think about all this? I thought this was a very important video to make right now. Thanks for watching, everyone. You're awesome. I'll see you all in the next video.